The Dogs have officially broken fall camp, and that means that we're just days away from Clemson and Georgia and Atlanta to kick off the 2024 season. Kirby Smart met with the press today to talk about everything that went on in camp, what they're looking forward to heading into the season, and what they're going to do between now and then. Let's listen in, and I'll share my thoughts as we go.
All right. Yeah, we finished up scrimmage to Saturday, and players had Sunday and Monday off, and it's a big recovery time for us. We kind of finished what we consider to be training camp on Saturday afternoon, and we are still working on us and focusing on us on getting better. We're going to work on opponents for a couple days before we dive into Clemson later this week.
Pretty routine right there.
Coach, real simple. What'd you learn about your football team this fall camp?
Yeah, that we've got good mental toughness. We're in a good spot in terms of physicality. They've grinded. We're not where we need to be by any means, but we have made progress. I mean, scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2 progress was good. I saw things that I needed to see in terms of tackling, playing better without the coaches on the field, all the things you look for in young players to see them grow. You know, there's a small body of guys that have played a lot of football here that I know can go out there and execute. Then there's a larger body of new players that have to prove that. And I thought we had more guys execute without their coaches on the field Saturday and push through the heat, which is mentally tough, that you have to be able to get through that to grow and get better. And I'm pleased with where we are coming out of camp.
Okay, so right there, what we heard is very important because that means that Kirby and the team have moved beyond that first scrimmage, right? Because I came on here and I shared with you that he was reaching out to his team through the media, letting them know that they can't be soft, that you have to push through when things get hard. And he also talked about there how we saw a lot of guys jump from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2, which is what you want to see. If you don't see that, then we should be concerned. But it seems like the leadership in the locker room and the words got back to the players through the coaches or through Kirby's media, and they got the message. Scrimmage 1 wasn't good enough, and that was the first time they had had pads on full go in that kind of heat since spring practice. So you would expect it, to be a little rough, to not be smooth. But it's great to hear that they got the message. They amped it up for the second scrimmage, and then players started to show up. So that's a really positive thing as we get ready to head into the season.
Who? Like, what's your question on?
Robinson, running back, Brinson status.
Which Robinson? Roderick. Yeah, Roderick's dealing with a little bit of a turf toe, and don't know when he's going to become or be available. But we had a good group of backs really do good things Saturday. Who else you ask about?
Warren Brinson.
Yeah, Warren's been working his way back. He's hitting, I think, around 75, 85% on his GPS. He has improved each and every day. He's been dealing with a little bit of Achilles, but that was coming into camp. It was something we were aware of, and actually today he's supposed to get back and do a lot more work with us.
Okay, so that's really big right there because we got some information about Rod Robinson. We now know he's dealing with a bit of a turf toe injury. He had been seen in a boot following, one of the practices and scrimmages. So it's good to know what that is. Now, hopefully that's something he's going to be able to work through without much of an issue, and he's going to be good to go the rest of the way. But it is good to get a little clarity there. And we also heard them mention Warren Brinson, another defensive lineman that's dealing with a little bit of an injury. It's kind of a nagging thing. He seems to be working through it, sort of like what Jared Wilson was working through, a little Achilles strain. So they have to monitor it, take it slowly, but it sounds like they're doing okay. And this drives home that point that I was talking about a while back. Depth is a concern. It's a concern in places that maybe it wasn't last year, but in this new season, as we play or think that we might play 15, 16, 17 games, then how many players you have ready to go and the kind of quality depth of players that you have that can play winning football, it really matters. So we need to get these things cleaned up. Hopefully the guys will be fine. We'll be ready to rock and roll against Clemson here in just a few days.
Coach, what have you seen from the 3 transfer receivers, Colby, London, and Michael, so far in camp?
Colby's been dealing with a hamstring some, so he hasn't been 100%. London had a big jump from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2.
Here's that jump.
And Michael Jackson is a guy that's been really reliable for us, hard worker, competitor, continues to improve and get better, and I'm pleased with all 3 of those guys.
Okay, so an update on another soft tissue injury. That depth is a concern, players making a move, and consistent players that can make winning football plays.
Well, we've got probably 5 to 6 guys operating and repping there, and we've got some guys that work at both, go inside and outside, and so Chris Peel's a guy that we've used at safety and at corner. Dalen plays some star and corner. Julio Daniel, Ellis, DeMello, all have grown, gotten better. Andre Evans is continuing to grow and get better. And all those guys, they work really hard and really pleased with the camp that all really 6 of those guys have had.
Oh, wow. Now that is some new information, at least for me, because I had gotten my head around the fact that there were 4 quality players at cornerback, guys that we could expect to see pretty quickly. But from what Coach just said, that number is 6. 6 guys that are rotating through and playing corner that can play winning football at that position, that they trust. That is great news. Going back to that depth piece, players being able to cross-train and do what they need to do based on the opponent that they're playing, the scheme that they're facing, and being able to get your best players on the field in any given situation. That is amazing news, especially when he's talking about those younger players like Peel and Andre Evans. Now, Andre Evans, remember, he was one of those guys that was a recent signee, very long, very physical player with good ball skills. That is very, very good news for Georgia as we head into the season.
Yeah, I know Jared's been dealing with a little bit of an Achilles injury, and you've moved Tate over to center. How has Tate handled playing center, given I think in March he had said he had never done it before, and how have you seen him grow and develop and add that sort of skill to his bag? Yeah,
Tate's done great. He's a really good athlete. He's a tremendous athlete. He can move, do things. Drew Bobo's done really good things there. Jared's been back and practiced in scrimmage Saturday and done some good things. We've been controlling his volume, but he's been out there working and getting some continuity. He has the largest body of work over the last 2 to 3 years at center of anybody. Drew has continued to impress and done a great job, and Tate's gotten a lot of work there, through our OTAs, training camp days, walkthroughs. Tate has had a lot of reps, and he's been right next to the center making all the calls. So the mental part of it's been great, and his snaps have been really good too. So he's just creating value for himself, and that he can play multiple positions now.
Once again, we see cross-training, building that depth
Give me an update on
so that one injury doesn't tank your season.
Their health, and do you expect them to be able to play against Clemson?
Xavier McLeod has been dealing with a little bit of an injury. He's been pushing through and working through. We're trying to get him back. Don't know when he'll
defensive
be back.
lineman.
Smile has practiced every practice this camp. He's had some days of higher volume, some days of lower volume, but Smile's been out there doing everything.
Hopefully that won't nag him throughout the season.
Yeah, kind of along that line. Smile had his charges dismissed. So Kobe had some charges dismissed too. I know you've been dealing with this stuff off the field. Are any of these guys, Trevor as well, looking at
He's not going to answer this question.
As a result of all of that?
Yeah, we'll deal with all that when it comes time, Chip.
Yeah.
You talked a good bit during Paul camp about how relatively young these inside linebackers are, even with CJ and Raylan playing some last year. What have you seen as far as the leadership in that room from Smile, being that older guy and helping those guys along?
Well, it was hard for Smile because he wasn't able to do everything last year. He was dealing with a nagging injury, and then he had the same thing in the spring. So I feel like he's been a little more assertive now that he's back working, operating at every practice, getting reps.
Naturally.
Even though his reps might one day be 80% and then another day 40%, and then he goes up and down with the volume. He's been out there, so he's been able to be a leader. C.J. Allen's a natural leader who does a really good job, and you don't really see him like a sophomore out there. He plays like he's a little bit older, and Raylan's done a good job. The guy that has really stepped up is Terrell Foster, who's probably been here longer than any of them. I don't know if he's been here longer than Smile, but it sure seems that way. So Terrell's done a great job for us. He is a warrior in terms of competitive toughness, special teams, and makes plays. So that room has no shortage of talent. It may have a shortage of experience, but they rely on each other, and there's several good leaders in there. The freshmen are great leaders. Chris Cole and Justin Williams are going to be tremendous leaders and players in our organization as they get older.
Oh, wow. Now that is really important right there. There's a lot to take away from that. One, that Terrell Foster is showing up. We heard his name last year when JDJ got hurt and CJ had to step up and play, and we were concerned about depth. That Foster was flashing last year. And now we're hearing him mentioned right there in the first 4 names in a linebacker group that I believe is going to be very, very special. And then we heard that the freshmen, the young guys, are already showing leadership ability and comfortable levels as far as taking a lead on the field and showing what they can do. This group is going to be one of the best rooms in the nation over the next few years. That is outstanding news if you're a Georgia Bulldogs fan.
Coach, what far as another running back question, as far as Branson goes, what stood out about the way he attacked his rehab
Beast.
during his injury last year? And as far as Trevor goes, you mentioned last week he's become the leader of the room. I was wondering if you could maybe give some examples of how he's going about doing that.
Yeah, Branson is a really hard worker. First of all, he came in with some tendonitis, and so it was really hard for him his freshman year to push and get through. There was times at camp he couldn't even run. He never complained. He's just a tough, mentally and physically kid. He's got great parents. They pushed him. He's a great leader, and he's from the time of the injury, he never pouted, cried. I mean, he just understood that was part of the game, and it was a significant injury. So for him to come back and not even get to really go through spring full speed, he did some things in the spring, but he didn't get to go full speed. It's been great having him back from a physical toughness standpoint, a reliability standpoint, ball security, third down pickups, special teams. He's just a really good football player. So I love the way he went about doing things.
That's the kind of attitude you want that room.
He's a natural leader. He's been that way since he was even in Florida. He was that way. He's a very confident kid. He leads by example. He gets up there first. He's hard on guys when he needs to be. He speaks up in front of the team, and he's a tremendous asset.
Yeah, Coach.
Now, that's interesting, given that Etienne's new in the room, new to the program, and he's willing to step up, and the players already listen to him. That says a lot about what they think he can do for the team this year. And the words on Branson, we know that. We know that he's a tough runner physically. We know that he has a mental toughness. You have to have a mental toughness to come back from the kind of injury he just came back from. And keep it all in perspective, knowing that it's part of the game. It's just part of the process. Another player, Nick Chubb, has had his physical struggles like that, and he approaches it the same way. Branson, in one of the previous interviews I'd heard from earlier this spring, said that personally, he feels like he's on track, or his personal goals would be to get over 1,000 yards this year, maybe 1,300 to 1,500. Now, given the way the backs share carries here at Georgia, he would have to have some explosive games to get to that number, I think. But it just shows you how comfortable and confident he is coming back from this injury. And his mental and physical toughness are going to carry him forward as we get into the season and really lead that room, because that's what I want to see from my running backs when you have to have 3rd and 1 and the game's on the line. So I'm loving
That
that.
defensive tackle room seems to be pretty banged up. I'm curious if there are any young names that have flashed in the absence of some of those older guys.
They're working hard. I wouldn't go as far as say flashing. I mean, they're working hard. They're getting better. Jordan Thomas, Jamal Jarrett, Namdi, all those guys, Nas Johnson, the quality of work they've gotten and the amount of work they've gotten has been inordinate based on years past. where a guy like that would not have gone against maybe the 1-0 line much. He would have gone against maybe the 3-0 line. Well, they've been forced to go against 2s, 3s, 1s. They've gotten a lot of work. Nas has, who's been a staple for us. Christian has. Zay McLeod has. And so has Warren Brinson in terms of that. So those guys all getting back and getting back healthy it's provided us an opportunity to build depth with the younger players.
There you go, depth and trust the process. Put in the work. Get a little bit better every day.
How two big, talented kids out of Texas. What can you tell us about them?
Both working. They're both getting through their first camp, which is not easy here. And I don't set real high expectations like you guys try to do for these kids. I tell them that if they can help and contribute, I want them to. And I think both those guys will help us and contribute this year. To what extent? Maybe based on injury, how many snaps we have to play, what packages we play. Justin's probably going to help on special teams before anything else. Joseph has done a tremendous job. You feel like they're older than that because they went through all spring. And Joseph has asserted himself as a physical presence. He's a good sub rusher. He's really physical on the edge. And he's gotten matched up a lot of times against our older offensive tackles, and he holds his own. So we're looking forward to being able to play those guys.
Those are the two 5-star freshmen from Texas.
Christian Miller entering his third year in the program now. Where have you seen him improve the most this offseason, and what does he need to continue to show to be, I think, an every-down player in that defensive line room?
Yeah, I think he is an every down player in that room. I think he's shown that even last year. We had the luxury of some depth, so we didn't have to play him every down. We got to rotate him and play him. But he's been much more dependable, reliable, available might be the best word, because he's been doing a good job of staying healthy and working. He's had some nagging injuries the last couple of years that he didn't get all the way through camp. So availability sometimes is the best ability, and he's been that.
Availability is the best availability.
Kirby, is Gunnar Stockton your backup quarterback, and how has he looked this preseason?
You know, we have a group of quarterbacks that have done a great job. I think we've got depth at the quarterback position that we're not used to having in terms of guys that have experience, some guys that are young, some guys that have played like Gunnar and Jaden, and they've done a tremendous job. Gunnar's had two of his better scrimmages and had probably his best scrimmage since being here in the last one. I'm really pleased with where all those guys are.
Whoa, wait just a second. Now I want to pause. I'm not trying to stir the pot here or anything, but I think I assumed, and I think most people assumed, that Gunnar Stockton, given his lead on Rashada and Puglisi in this offense, was the clear-cut number 2 heading into the season. Kirby didn't just say that. He had the opportunity to say that, and he didn't. He said Gunnar's improving. He has played. He's doing the best he's ever done. He didn't call him his backup quarterback. That's interesting. Now, I'm not trying to read too much into it here, but Kirby doesn't step to the podium and just say stuff willy-nilly. He steps up there with a purpose, with an intent, and he didn't answer that question when given the chance. It's going to be something to watch for the Dogs early in the year. If they tried out a number 2, who's it going to be? And is it an open competition that they're going to let play out in-game scenarios to finally settle on who that number 2 is? We always talk about competition at Georgia and how it's ongoing every day at practice. Maybe those guys like Rashada and Puglisi are making moves and putting pressure on Gunnar that we didn't realize. That is very, very interesting.
Speaking of quarterback, what kind of chemistry are you seeing Carson develop with some new faces at receiver and tight end? You know, he had his go-to guys, but what kind of chemistry is progressing through camp and as we get ready to closer to the regular season?
Well, I think that's a work in progress because we don't have a complete full deck out there. And I would venture to say everybody in the country is that way because you've got, one wide out, maybe a tight end out, maybe a back out. The next thing you know, you don't have everybody out there. You're really trying to develop two things. Is chemistry with your number ones more important than developing your number twos? and at the expense of
I've
chemistry.
talked about this.
We want to have depth, and we've done a really good job pushing the envelope with London, Michael Jackson, Sokovie, Nitro, Riddell, Colton Heinrich, making sure they're on the same page as Carson. And sometimes when you do that, you might lose a little continuity or rhythm because you don't have your top guys in there. But we've got to force guys to get ready to play that are going to have to play throughout the year, and then try to really get that continuity here in the next week or so.
Okay, so right there, people have been asking Kirby Smart and every coach around the country, really, how are you going to approach the new 12-team playoff? What are you going to do to get your team ready, build depth on your roster? He just told us he is sacrificing continuity at this point in the year so they can get depth and repetitions built so that these guys are more comfortable when they do have an opportunity to play. That's a big insight to the season philosophy for what Kirby's looking at as far as these Dogs are concerned. And think about other things. I talked about it originally months ago about Gunnar Stockton, assuming he was going to be the number 2. How do you get him ready to play? You have to give them meaningful reps to build that depth and experience. That's what Kirby just said right there. But also think of it in terms of, like, if you're thinking about Carson Beck and his statistics and the Heisman chase and all that sort of stuff, which the team isn't, but as fans, if you're thinking about that, Kirby just told you, we are going to get these guys in the game. We're going to practice them. We're going to play them. We're going to give them reps to build that depth, because the bigger goal is being able to win that trophy at the end. And the only way you're going to survive the lengthier season with more of a grind where you know injuries are going to happen is to develop that depth right now. Give those guys those repetitions. So are the Dogs going to roll out there against Clemson and put 50 on the board offensively? Maybe not. He just told us continuity may not be there. There's nagging injuries here and there. Colby Young is an example. But is he trying to put 50 on the board against Clemson, or is he trying to win the game, build depth, and get ready to win that title at the end of the year? He just told us what his priority is. That's some good insight for us.
You took my question there was about Sokovie White, Nitro Tuckle, and what can you tell us about Cole Spear?
I can tell you all 3 of those guys are really hard workers, very intelligent, extremely athletic. Cole's been a dominant special teams player, and he's going to take on more role this year at receiver on top of being a good special teams player.
Okay.
He's a core product of our system. He came in probably under-recruited, not highly touted. He's gotten better every year. He's really tough. He's really physical. He's really fast. He can dominate on all 4 phases of special teams, but he's also created a role for himself at wideout. Sokovie and Nitro are still learning. They need to play football. They need to go out there without coaches and have to execute. But they're talented football players. But I don't know that they're 100% reliable right now. We have to get more reliability out of them.
All right, so program product, Cole Spear's going to earn some playing time. And the young kids just have to go play.
Yeah, his ability to process information faster. I mean, everything was really fast on Jonell last year in terms of get the call, get lined up, execute.
Jonell Aguero.
Get the call, get lined up, execute. That was tough, man. I mean, it was like he's going from a system where he never had so many words. He didn't have to learn things. He had rules he had to get, and he took a lot of lumps last year. He learned from Tyke. He got frustrated at times, but it's paid off this year in terms of he understands the defense. We're still challenging him to communicate a little better, meaning verbalize things to people in front and behind you. But he does a really good job with see ball, hit ball, cover people, strike people. He's a good football player.
Well, I like that. And Jonell Aguero chose Georgia for the development. It sounds like he's getting it.
Help this offensive line.
Yeah, toughness, character, what he stands for, just as a man. Have a lot of respect for Dylan and the way he's gone about his approach. He stood up in front of the team and told his story, and he talked about the years he spent on the scout team and how much it meant to him to earn what he's gotten here and how hard he's had to work for it. So a lot of respect for him. His greatest attribute is probably his toughness or his power.
Oh, I like that toughness from my lineman.
Taking a look early this week at future opponents, are there specific matchups you guys are previewing, or what does that process look like over the next couple of days?
We're just looking at future opponents and things that we don't see from ourselves. So if we don't play a certain coverage, certain front, we're going to look at it and work on it and try to expose our team to it. You got to be careful about you don't get programmed into playing us. We don't play us this year. And same thing on offense. There's teams that do things we don't do offensively that, we just try to explore, and that's probably 10, 15% of practice. It's not the majority. It's a small piece, and we continue working on fundamentals.
No detail, too small.
Some stuff last year. How valuable is it to have a guy who's kicked for a year, and how's he kicking right now?
He's been great. It's relieving that we don't have that stress of trying to figure out who that is this year. So I feel great about that. We do have good competition going on for kickoff battles, and Peyton's consistent. He's been good fall camp.
One less thing to worry about. I like it.
Give us an update on how Anthony Evans is coming along and maybe other potential return candidates.
Yeah, Anthony's done a good job. He's very consistent back there. He's done it in a game. Sokovie continues to grow and get better. Sokovie has a lot of potential. Other return candidates would be Michael Jackson, who's done it. Malachi Tolliver has done it all through high school. He's done it since been here. ETN does it in terms of kickoff. Dylan Bell, Cole Spear, Cash. We got a lot of guys. Nate Frazier. We got a lot of guys back there that catch kicks and punts.
I like having options.
Coach, retrospectively, that 2021 matchup with Clemson to open the season was huge and monumental, for the whole year, I guess. But just looking back, all the way back to your career, what can you say about the Georgia-Clemson rivalry? And I'm sure you guys are constantly running into each other on the
I love it.
recruiting
I grew
trail.
up 30 minutes from
You don't
Clemson,
play
so
every year, but I'm assuming
it's a big
there's
game to me.
competition every year with Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see them on the road recruiting as much as it seems like we used to. I don't know if it's died down some. I mean, there's a lot of overlap. They recruit our state hard. We recruit their state hard. A lot of respect for their players, their teams, their coaches, for what Dabo's built there. I had a good relationship with Brent when he was there, and he's in our league now.
Yep, Brent Venables.
They've been one of the premier teams in college football in terms of the last 10 years, you could say. I mean, it's probably longer than that, but they've done a tremendous job. So we do see them on the road, some recruiting, but I think the matchup is more about our fans. Just getting that caliber of a matchup to start the season is important. But, we got issues on our hands today we're trying to deal with over the game.
Time for one more question. I want to ask you about your three redshirt freshmen defensive backs, Rhett, Peel, and Jones. What have you seen from them in year two for those guys?
Yeah, growth. Rhett has gotten better with each and every practice. He continues to improve. He's gotten better this camp from spring. Peel has been dealing with a shoulder surgery that he missed some time at the end of spring, and so he was not cleared for the start of camp. He's just now getting cleared, as in today, and he's been practicing. He just hadn't been completely cleared to do full contact, so he'll get to do some of that. And then Kyron has had a good camp. He's really fast. He's really physical. He was a running back in high school that had really never played DB. So we told him it's going to take a while. It's not overnight. You just snap your fingers. And he's starting to show up more on special teams as a really competitive and dominant player. He's still working at DB to grow and get better, because it's not something that you just click your heels together and get it right.
So there you have it. Kirby Smart laying out his thoughts at the end of fall camp, looking forward to the Clemson game and the 2024 season. I heard a lot of things out of there that I found very useful and interesting. I hope you enjoy videos like this. I'm going to try to do them throughout the season. We'll see how it goes. Until next time, y'all take care of yourselves, your friends, your families, and go Dogs!
Told him, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told him.